So it is now turn 5. So we've got a whole bunch of expansion. So the only interesting thing here is going on is barbarians hit again and fail. As I mentioned last time, barbarians have pretty low morale and very low protection, so they die very quickly to archers. So I bet these guys just get absolutely pin cushioned by these javelins. No. Yeah. See, not. Yeah. Just obliterated. Yep.
They didn't even route, they got obliterated.
Yeah, they did not even have time to route. Pythium's own troops are incredible at fighting these guys because of the shields, right? Yeah, I think they were actually here because this got taken this turn. So they were here. So I would say that this was probably the better move.
Look at that Uruk move.
So Uruk had a very interesting move. Is this god decided to think they could take this province, which is I know I said last time. There's this very greedy Uruk line going on. This snake expand. It's kind of an interesting choice considering there are all these provinces that Uruk could take inside their dominion. They can definitely see that are reasonably undefended. But let's take a look at this battle.
Right, and some people try to snake around and pick up, sort of encircle some independent territories because they think, oh, well, people will respect my expansion, and then I'll just end up, having an extra turn to expand into those provinces that I've encircled. That can snag you an extra province or two, but if you try to bite off more than you can chew, people will look at that encirclement and say, wow, this person is greedy. Let's all just get together and kill them while they're still sort of tangled up in themselves trying to finish expansion. And that can be really bad.
It is definitely a tricky thing to do. Yeah, the problem with only having 11 protection is people are going to beat your awe,
Does it have any invuln?
No invuln. Yeah, so that is the issue with this thing is you are kind of at the mercy of having consistently good awe rolls.
Yeah, and notice sort of awe stacks really well with repel because the awe makes it harder. Or am I thinking of
awe does stack? Or awe stacks well with all defenses, but again, the problem here was just didn't quite make it. I think if the god had kept fighting, it would have been fine. Those archers were a problem when they were shooting at it, but at the end there, they went into melee with their daggers, and I think the god would have finished off. But it did rout at about 20-30 HP, so them's the breaks. I don't know if Uruk could have held this province.
It would have been very tempting for Arco to take that away, but I guess it's also 3 from Arco.
Yeah, it's 3 from Arco, 3 from it. It's kind of a weird province.
I guess he didn't know who was in Pythium's position on that turn. Given that it's Pythium, maybe Uruk could feel that he could bully Pythium a little, given how the troop matchup shakes out early on.
It's also possible he had scouts in these provinces, so he could see.
It's also, it's a little risky if you don't know who's there, because if that was Ind or something with high strength troops, that could be really not someone you want to be in an early war with, and taking that province would be sort of inviting them to clear war.
Yeah, in this game, the starts are set, so Uruk could have definitely figured it out.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, I would say the big issue with this is Calum is now on your doorstep. Calum is going to get all these provinces. So Calum is expanding very well. Yeah, Calum took 2 more provinces this turn and has managed to get itself back in the lead. So now Calum is now tied with Uruk and Pythium for first place in terms of provinces. So I would say, Ermor is going to, take these provinces over here. Ermor also pretty good expansion. And they're going to left with a weird line-shaped empire where they could have had, I think, a better one.
Yeah, so we should note that, look at Calum. So Calum's pushed 3 away from their cap and 2 away from Uruk's. That's a very bold move, and it can certainly pay off. But what Calum must be thinking with that, assuming he checked and sees that Uruk is there, is that he thinks that he's in a decent position if Uruk wanted to try to go to war for that province, such that he thinks I'll be able to make an NAP or something with Uruk, and he'll accept that I've grabbed a little more than my fair share of that. You wouldn't want to try this against someone you weren't comfortable fighting early.
Yeah, Calum is a very interesting nation in terms of your diplomatics early game. On the one hand, a good Calum is almost impossible to put down because flyers are great at building forts, flyers are great at counter-raiding. It doesn't matter how good your troops are, you just don't have enough of them early game to really kind of deal with the amount of flyers that Calum can put out. But then again, they're not actually amazing at killing you either, but they can make the war last forever.
Right, so on that kind of nation, you can see why a little bit of a greedy expansion strategy could pay off.
Yeah.
You notice he's not really overextending. Maybe Caleb's thinking, I'll take this because it's open, and then maybe if Uruk complains to me, I'll say, okay, I'll give it back if you help me invade this third party. I like to do that.
Taking provinces and then selling them back for good favor and for assistance is always fun. All right, cool. I think that's it with his turn. Things are not really heating up yet. I expect not a whole lot of action the next week, but maybe week 3 we're going to start seeing some real heavy hitters. Here we are in turn 6 of the Ascension Wars. Here's how the scoreboards look at the beginning of the turn. We've got Uruk sitting in first, followed closely by Kalem. Those two then being trailed by Ermor and Tartary. Expansion's pretty standard this turn. No bumps. Pythium took a loss to some Wolf Tribe. They just didn't have enough guys. Velites are not super powerful. Ulm took a loss in a similar fashion. Not enough guys. Horse Tribe can be quite menacing. That lance can actually get through the armor of Ulm. Kalem's God bounced off Indies. Something you may recognize from earlier is, oh, what's that? There appears to be a barbarian. It appears to be berserking. Oh, nobody can damage the god until everybody's favorite hero, Winebaud the barbarian, comes and scares the god away. This province,
saving his tribe for another day.
Yes, the tribe of Winebaud the barbarian is safe for another day, and he now has 1 experience point.
My god is greater.
From laps with your 4 wins.
So he's a little injured there, but that's okay.
Yep. I would love to see him on the Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see it.
You'd hate to see Indies not get the credit they deserve.
Indeed.
This guy, fought off an awake god twice.
Absolutely incredible. Ariu also failed their expansion here. Ariu's starting army is a bit tricky. They don't have any of their interesting Furbolg troops. Instead, they have these pikemen and slingers. Slingers are well known for being the most awful unit in the game. So after smiting that barbarian smartly, not letting him get in close, they were scared off by Long Dead. The Anoki has successfully taken the province it wanted to take. Now Uruk's long empire is complete. We will have to see how Uruk continues to expand from there.
Yeah, so when I first saw this, I said, what the heck is Uruk doing? He's overreaching a little bit here. But then I took a look at it, and that province is equally distant from Arco and Uruk, so Arco doesn't particularly have a claim over it. It's closer to Pythium there. It's 2 from Pythium's cap and 3 from Uruk's, so Pythium might consider it sort of in his sphere of influence. But Pythium has a very bad matchup against those heavy hitting Uruk troops early. So I think that Uruk may have made a good call here, taking that province, knowing that Pythium probably won't risk a war just to get that province back. Uruk's sort of got a big stick right now. Maybe that'll be a problem down the line when Ind says, hey, let's gang up on Uruk. But for now, I think it's a reasonable play.
Pythium hasn't even expanded to an adjacent province yet, so it's difficult to say they have any reasonable claim on it. Yes. Pythium's been expanding in the opposite direction.
There are 2 sort of aspects of claims, as far as claims that are even a real thing. One would be how close it is to your cap. You cannot take someone's cap circle without them declaring war on you for the rest of the game until they get it. And to a much lesser extent, taking something that's 3 or 4 from your cap and 2 or 3 from theirs is kind of a sign that you're grabbing some stuff that should be theirs, and maybe they'll want to pick a fight with you later. But that said, if you think you can win that 1v1, go ahead and be a little greedy. And second, obviously, is whoever gets there first has a big sort of prior claim to the land. And I think the combination of those 2 factors is why Uruk went ahead and did this.
We continue to talk about Uruk far too much.
It's an exciting nation.
Oh yeah,
and it's got the most provinces.
They are in the lead, so we will be talking about them. When Man gets in the lead, we will talk about their expansion. This turn, some real Diplo has started to go on. As we kind of predicted, there was some negotiation that went on for the Bone Tribe Indies up with Ariu. So Ariu has negotiated with Arco to give these Bone Tribe Indies away in exchange for a border on this desert and this forest. Ariu is opting for the chariot-based build. Ariu's chariots are very, very strong. But otherwise, we've been looking at NAP3s all around. Nations have been... I don't think I've seen a single NAP3 like rejected, except for maybe I think Ermor, one of the players, rejected the NAP3 in exchange for NAP2. But that's just you got to bully Ermor a little bit just to signal to everyone else that you're on the side of anti-Ermor.
Right. There's still a little bit of a legacy of ganging up on Ermor, even though Ermor of Dom 5 is a lot weaker than sort of the existential threat that Dom 4 Ermor was. That spot is now sort of Lemuria.
And in MA, it's kind of Solaria, at least in vanilla.
Yeah. It can be kind of tricky. Maybe you don't want to necessarily sign an NAP3 with everyone because you want to actually be able to pick a good early war and fight when you have the opportunity to do so. But you also, if you're in an environment like this game where people seem to be pairing off and making those NAP3s, you also don't want to be left out in the cold, where everyone's like, oh, I've allied 4 of my 5 neighbors. All that's left is so and so. And if a couple neighbors are in that situation, you're in a lot of trouble because they'll be bored and have nowhere else to go. One thing I like to do is to make sort of a fixed duration NAP instead of a turn notice NAP. Turn notice would be saying, I'll give you a 3-turn warning before I invade you. A fixed duration would be, let's, for the next year, we promise not to attack each other. And as a player who really likes sort of the snowball strategy, I'm a big fan of the fixed duration, because if you make staggered fixed duration NAPs with your neighbors, what you can do, be in a position of strength, negotiate a deal with one of them, pivot to the next, and so on and so forth. And every time you have a window of opportunity to threaten a war with that particular player, and take the war if they don't sort of give you whatever concessions you were hoping for. And usually you don't want to ask for like material concessions because people hate being bullied, but often you can say, look, I have a good matchup against your nation. I'd love to invade you right now, but it would be even better for me if the two of us invaded this third party together. What if I sign an NAP with you in exchange for you invading this third party? That's a pretty compelling story for the other side, and oftentimes you can get a really advantageous 2v1 early war out of that. So I'd like to see some more fixed duration NAPs in this game. You can really use them a lot more effectively than the turn notice ones, which basically just mean you're an opportunist, but a very slow to react opportunist. You don't have any long-term protection, because if you invade someone else, people can cancel their NAPs with you and hit you before you can finish the fight. But you also are slow to react if a couple neighbors jump on a third neighbor. So we'll see if that actually ends up happening at all in this game, or whether people stick to the turn notice.
It's all sunshine and rainbows until somebody throws the first stone, and then, in my experience, it tends to
World War Dom.
Yes, world wars very quickly.
Yeah, and if I had to guess where that first war might happen, we were talking about Ermor earlier, weren't we? Like, with an imprisoned blood vengeance god, Ermor is starting out quite weak, and someone like, anyone who can get some priests together might look at a gank on Ermor. Now, Ermor presumably knows this, and Ermor will probably look to partner up with a potential adversary, Pythium or maybe Man or someone like that, and see if Ermor can help that person target a third nation, sort of, make a friend, and also keep that friend away from a group of people who might choose to invade Ermor.
Yeah, we will have to see how that goes.
If I were Pythium, I wouldn't be in any rush to invade Ermor, because he's got until that Blood Vengeance comes out to storm in with his mage comms. And the mage comms are only going to get stronger. He doesn't want to fight super early, I don't think.
I think Ermor is in an interesting position this game. Their Bless is not going to come online until a lot later, and they have a lot of adversaries near them, so they're going to have to dip a little hard. Yep, we're going to have to see how they do.
Calum Diplo is always interesting. No one wants to get into a war with Calum early, because with the flying raiders, it can just be really difficult to force a battle, and you can lose all your land in the process. And Calum, any flying nation really, can threaten to sort of take both of you out of the game by ignoring your army and jumping on your cap with their army, if you try to invade them early without a coalition. So, one popular thing we saw it in like Dom 4 with Zabalba, which was a very strong flying nation back then, was for people to coalition the flying nation before it could get its stuff together, get enough troops to be able to leap onto one player and try to take them out in one big alpha split. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any movement toward that in this game, or if people opt to sort of make that NAP with Kalo and save it for a later date.
All right, cool. We'll have to see how the Diplo situation unfolds moving forward then.
Should be an exciting period of the game coming up.